all focus now is on the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, as the initial deadline for continuous voter registration approaches. The exercise, which was meant to end by 30th June 2022, has been a topic of discussion in recent times as Nigerian citizens have called for an extension of the process in order to enable more people to register. The House of Representatives had urged INEC to extend the deadline for the continuous voter registration by an extra 60 days from June 30, 2022 to enable more Nigerians to register. This is one of many issues the electoral body is faced with, as there is still the case of political parties using the concept of placeholders to buy more time in selecting their vice presidential candidates, a move that INEC has called illegal, saying it has no place in Nigeria's constitutional and legal framework. There's also the case of party primary reruns in some states that the electoral body has described as a sham, like the case of the governorship and senatorial primary elections in Akwa Ibom State. Joining us on this show this morning as we discuss these and other issues INEC has to deal with is Mike Igini, Akwa Ibom Resident Electoral Commissioner. Well, you're welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Mr. Mike Igini. Well,
thank you, Ruben Abati and Rafai, for the invite.
Thank you very much for joining us. But before we go into all of this, we just read that, we have, information from two credible sources that the CJN has resigned on health grounds. Well, do you think that the CJN has had to step down because of some of recent developments in the Supreme Court? And, well, even if it is on health grounds, what follows from now? What is the process for succession?
Well, thank you very much. The news that you just broke, if it is true, and from the background that you have given in terms of long-standing health challenges, I think that we should take it for that and not necessarily attach to it the issues about the development at the Apex Court by his colleagues, Justice of the Supreme Court. So all that we need to do is to pray for his quick recovery and more so that he has resigned. Of course, the process of succession we have to commence immediately. But we'll pray for him to recover. Well,
we know that the convention is that the next most senior justice of the court takes over.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
But, whoever is the next one, I think in this case is Justice Olukaode Ariwola. But then, before any appointment can be made, the Judicial Service Commission and the National Judicial Council will have to make recommendations to the President.
Absolutely.
Who will then forward to the Senate for confirmation. But maybe we shouldn't jump the gun. Let's see how that plays out in due course. Right. Okay. I'm sure everybody will be watching the Apex Court in the country closely going forward. But let's go to the business, the main reason why you're here. This controversy over placeholders, which we have been told is unknown to the Constitution, but which has been introduced in some places, but famously in Yobe North, where a certain Mr. Machina says it's nobody's placeholder. He took part in the primaries, okay? And you've also had cases in some other parts of the country, even in your own state, where there was a controversy over the governorship primary, who is the senatorial primary, who is a legitimate person, even over, party primaries generally under your watch. What do you think the problem really is? Is it a problem with the Electoral Act 2022 or the fact that many of the stakeholders, including INEC officials, still have the Electoral Act 2010 as amended in their heads, which was a tacit point that Femi Falana SCN was pointing out when he was correcting Mr. Muhammad Aruna and I think Dr. Festus Okoye to say that, look, INEC has powers under the law, as it is, to reject anybody who does not pass through the primaries, monitored by INEC. And anybody who was not part of it, INEC does not need to say, the affected stakeholder will have to go to court, and that INEC cannot deny the eligibility of a person on the grounds of non-participation in the primary. What are the issues? You have been through this process, and maybe you share the benefit of your experience in Akwa Ibom State with us.
Thank you very much, Abati, for this invitation. As part of our continuing efforts to give meaning and purpose to the ballots as the best means of expression of the will of the people in a democracy. And I sit here, like all my colleagues across the country, given the statutory power under Part 1, Section 2 of the 2022 Electoral Act that enjoins all of us to provide civic and voters education, but more importantly, to educate Nigerians on sound knowledge of democracy and democratic processes. So the first issue you raised was the issue about the needless controversy debate about placeholder, which has been going on. My first reaction is that we are just a people that perhaps, rather than focus on weightier issues that should define the polity, we are engaged in a very sterile debate about placeholding. On question of the requirement for a presidential candidate or a governorship candidate, as the case may be, it's a matter settled by the Constitution. Section 41 of the Constitution provides that there shall be for the Federation a vice president. And Section 42 went further to say that a candidate for an election for the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, candidature shall not be valid unless he nominates another candidate who shall, from his party, who shall be a vice president and shall occupy that office if he wins that election. That is all. If you go to the Electoral Act, beyond the issue about qualification, that also must be met with that of the presidential candidate, nothing else said about it. And so, my colleagues, senior colleague, versus Okoye, was very correct when he made the point that all the parties that were required to provide names of their running mates had done so, and the last day, which on the 17th, and they have done so constitutionally. Now, have you done so? If after you have submitted the name of your running mate to the commission, perhaps you are asked a question about the choice you have made, and you decide to label it by calling it a placeholder or whatever name, that's a completely different thing. But what is clear is that all the parties have met the requirement of the Constitution. By calling it a placeholder, Professor Okoye, S.N. Falana, and all other lawyers that have said, if you look at the Constitution, the Electoral Act, the now placeholder, you will not find it, they are wholly correct. But what is important is that they have done the rightful thing. So, but however, because we are not in autarky of practices around the world, and having listened to all the argument, debate that have been going on, what people did not realize is that in the United States of America, there is a practice of placeholding system in America, where a governor of a state, with respect to legislative and senatorial positions, could appoint a placeholder pending when election is conducted. And that is why a placeholder is nothing but a situation where a person is appointed to occupy an office temporarily with the understanding that such a person will not occupy or contest for that office as of right and becomes a placeholder. So calling it placeholder, because I am not aware that when the parties uploaded the names of their running mates, they wrote a letter to our commission that we are putting it as a placeholder. No such letter was written. So the labeling is a different. That's why I felt that why this argument. But perhaps the question people are now raising on the basis of what you said about those who were said to be placeholders, and now they want to say they want to continue, is the fact that under the law, once by virtue of section 84, subsection 1, you have emerged from primaries. No party, as I stated before the commencement, because I raised the red flag to one, having advised political parties to study the 2022 Electoral Act, because there are some provisions I'm going to bring out today that if they don't study it, they're going to have problems. And so, under Section 31, Section 34, these are the conditions under which someone who has emerged could change. So the question people are now raising is that, can the current candidate, presidential candidate, make a change? The answer is yes. Because a running mate does not emerge from a primary process. Do not emerge from a primary process. It is at the discretion of the presidential candidate. And the constitution is clear on that. But can he make a change? Within the windows, the provision that I have referred to, Section 31, is inapplicable. Completely inapplicable. Because a running mate is not a product of party primary. The question now is, can they make a change? The answer is yes. All we need to do is to go back to the oracle, the constitution, that are commanded. In fact, the constitution is the all-commanded commander. And very clear on the matter. And what does it say? It said, nominate from your party who shall run with you. Now, can it change? You can answer that question. Even though Section 31 is not applicable, you go to the Law of the Federation, Chapter 123 of the Law of the Federation, Section 11, which says clearly, if you have it on the screen, if you have it, you can have Nigeria to read it themselves, that a person who has the power to appoint also has the power to withdraw, except there are conditions attached to the exercise of the power to appoint under the Interpretation Act. Look at appointment. And it's there. It is, once you have the power to appoint, inherent in that power is the power to also, at any given point in time, within the INEC framework, because on the 15th of July, all issues about withdrawal will have to be concluded with. So, for today, I think that debate is unnecessary. And to close on this point, is just the example I gave about the U.S. When Senator Ted Kennedy died, when John Kerry, resigned to take appointment at the Secretary of State for the United States, when McCain died, all the governors of the respective states appointed a placeholder. That is a practice in the United States of America. But with respect to what the presidential candidate have done, they have acted within the letter and spirit of the Constitution, and within the time allowable under INEC regulation. This time around, they have the power to make so. That's with respect to issue about placeholding. Okay,
real quickly, I'd like you to throw more light on the Akpabio case and the Ahmed Lawan case.
Well, first and foremost, I need to give a little background to what is going on, to make some fundamental clarification. And I want to ask a question first. That, what is the role of law in our representative democracy? Should we have a democracy without the rule of law? Is our society now a permissive society? We must recognize the fact that without the rule of law and its strict observance and obedience, electoral contests will be nothing but a crude deployment of force. Now, the primary process is guided by law. The Constitution, the Electoral Act, regulations, and guidelines of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Because if you look at section 160 of the Constitution, it is very clear on that. The power of INEC, that of all the executive bodies established under section 153, with respect to INEC, it said that it powers to make rules or otherwise regulate into procedure shall not be subject even to the most powerful office of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and that is the office of the President. So, in preparation for this election, we all work so hard, all Nigerians, to have the 2022 Electoral Act in place to guide the primary process. And that there must be internal party democracy in order for our democracy to be sustainable. Because if we don't have the rule of law, people don't obey their own law, respect their own members, this democracy will not be viable. Now, immediately that it was signed into law, the commission, the second day, the very first day, went to office, and we gave guidelines for that purpose. And you all recall that I was here and in some other station to advise that people should study the Electoral Act very well. In fact, this is the time they should get the service of lawyers to understand the Electoral Act. Many people did not heed that advice. With respect to Akwa Ibom, in October last year, 16 last year, Akwa Ibom is one of the states where the APC conducted a successful state congresses to elect executive of their members. But before that exercise, they came to the office, all parties. What would they do so that they don't have problems with their elections? We advised them. We provided them the INEC template of monitoring congresses, either for election to your ESCO or that of nomination of candidate. We made that provision for them. On the 16th of October, election was conducted. The video is everywhere. You could see right here that the video of what happened on the 16th of October was carried out. It was successful, it was peaceful, by one Yusuf Banki who led the committee set up by the National Working Committee of their party. But people who want to conduct their own primary in their homes, in their houses, they wanted a situation where there will be faction. You could see that
these people?
These are APC members, these are leaders. When the Congress was conducted on the 16th of October, they won. An executive emerged. They were sworn in. By December, we were not. That is the chairman of that committee. You could see the picture, even the other picture you are seeing there. You are going to see the current. This is the former minister. This is the one that had just been appointed as a minister right away, and the former minister. They were all there, successful. They had no problem. And the report was written and was sent to Abuja. By December, there was a report that there was already a crisis. What crisis? What happened? The result of that election, of that Congress that was conducted in line with section 223 of the Constitution, that was successful and peaceful among God said the Federal Republic of Nigeria in October last year, they altered the result. What happened? There were 10 candidates. This is their own affair. It should be noted that party primaries is not the conduct of INEC don't conduct party primaries or Congress for election of their member into their ESCO. It is the political party business. Our job is just only to monitor and provide report. But the beauty is that our report can be very decisive, cannot be ignored. Now, when they conducted that election, they won. But what happened? By December, they altered the result. Somebody who scored 1,200 278, who was the actual winner, and the last person who scored 006. What they did was to alter that result, brought down the figure 1 behind 006 to now read 1006. Immediately that was done, they went to court and obtained a fraudulent judgment that the person who scored 6, the least person, is not the winner. That was the same thing. You can see this is the original result. You could see there. Nigeria could see. Because when they're accusing INEC, accusing myself, calling my name, I was not part of what they did that was successful. That was the original result. If you go to the second page, you are going to see the altered result. Now you could see the person who scored, this is what they call 1,278. If you go to the other result, the person who scored 1,278, please, if they can zoom it out, for Nigeria to see, so that you will understand the genesis, the basis of the crisis they are having there. The idea to have a faction is that somebody wants to conduct the election by himself and his group when the time comes by 2022. This was the plan since last year. When that happened, obtained that judgment. The other group, they went to court on the 18th. They filed for stay of action and all that. On the 7th of April, the Court of Appeal granted gave an order for maintenance of status quo ante. That status quo must be maintained, which means the position of the parties before the dispute, who were those who were legitimately elected. But despite that order, the same politician went to swear in on the 11th of April the people that in breach of the court order. So who has been obeying court order in Nigeria? With respect to this matter, it is INEC, because within the period the court said maintain status quo. That was between on the 17th of March and on the 31st. We were within that period of the extant order to maintain status quo. But they went to swear somebody in breach of court order. This is the genesis of their crisis. So with respect to the primaries, they now wanted to do so. Just as in 2023, the commission relocated 23 polling units from private homes. That's the reason why they are crying all over the whole place.
Who's crying all over the place?
Politicians who are involved in this are crying all over the place. So INEC has been lawful because there was an extant order to maintain status quo. Now you know that in primaries, it is not the state ESCO that conduct primaries. It is the National Working Committee of all parties that will set up a committee. That was done. We got the notices. We were at the venue on the 26th with respect to governorship election. On the 27th was that of the senatorial elections. All right? We were at the venue of the share grace where that was done. They didn't show up to 11 o'clock. The report is already out there for the governorship. Nobody showed up. But in the week, I called the committee chairperson. He was in the office of the DSS because they were fighting themselves from the airport to Oro Junction. We were in the office myself, the commissioner of police. We were at the arena where it is supposed to take place. We were there till about 11 p.m. And I addressed the press after speaking to the chairman of the committee, one Ajibulu, that it was not going to take place. We went home. By second day in the morning, I woke up on social media everywhere, saturated with news that a primary had been conducted. Who monitored it? They said INEC official. As I speak to you today, call the name of INEC official that monitored that exercise. It was never monitored. On the 27th, that was for senatorial. In senatorial, we had the Northwest, where the DIG, put also emerged. There was no primary for South because the team that led by the head of GAP, they were there. We had the video showing that nobody showed up. So we had for Northeast, Northwest, and of course the House of Representatives. Those were things were done. But surprisingly, on the 10th of June, an event that had taken place on the 27th, I woke up, people were calling me that, Commissioner, how come you people are conducted in new primaries and all that? I said, which new primary? Say, I should go to social media. And it was the breaking that somebody had won election. I said, which election? Something we concluded, so the 27th of last month is taking place, and it was even labeled rerun. Look, we are election managers. We know the meaning of a rerun. A rerun election presupposes a previous election. And in a rerun election, Supreme Court is very clear. It can only take place between those who were in the part of the first exercise. Never.
Was Akwa part of the first exercise?
Absolutely no. It was not part of the exercise. It was not part of the exercise. So how can you talk about a rerun? And I made the point clear. Look, the train have led the station since on the 27th with respect to senatorial election. This is the genesis of what has happened with respect to that.
Some people are listening to you.
Yeah.
maybe there is another side to the story. Somebody sent this. He says, please help ask Igini why he chose to disrespect the order of the High Court in E2, Akwa Ibom State, that nullified the wards and local government's ESCOs that purportedly elected a Canem as the party chairman. Can one build something on nothing? Why did he choose to organize, that's you, why did you choose to organize an illegal senatorial district primary on the 27th of May, which purportedly produced Udom Ekudom, when the exercise held nationwide on the 28th at the party's NWC-approved venues and state? The Electoral Act, as amended, states that INEC shall only monitor congresses at the venue duly communicated and approved by the NWC of the party. Was the Share Grace Arena, where Igini went to purportedly monitor the governorship primary, the approved venue in the letter that was sent to the commission? The approved venue for the governorship primary was the state headquarters of the party. Please help us bring these questions for Igini to respond to.
Let me take them seriatim.
Yes, one after the other.
One, I had said there is a national working committee that conducts primaries. INEC has a platform for primary election, showing the calendar across the country. Governorship was on the 26th. That calendar is nationwide. Senatorial was on the 27th. That calendar is nationwide. With respect to which group were you dealing with, the Court of Appeal on the 7th of April granted and gave an order that the judgment of the Federal High Court that was delivered on the 17th of March that should be stayed and that status quo ante should be maintained. At that time, the guy who procured fraudulent judgment through altered results had not even been sworn in. So when the court gave order on the 7th of April, on the 11th of April, a few days after, 3 days after the court had given that order, they went to swear that person in. As a commission, we were the ones who complied with that order because the order of the Court of Appeal maintained status quo. That was the position of the parties before the dispute. And what was the position of the parties before the dispute? The Ekanem group had been the one in charge. All the documentation in relation to the primaries they were the one we were dealing with. We didn't get any documentation from any other group. Now, somebody talking about a state high court. Which state high court? This matter was referred to the Federal High Court in Abuja, not the state high court. There was no state high court order anywhere. But let me say this here, Dr. Abati. To underscore what is going on, Nigeria should ask a question. Why is that only one political party in Akwa Ibom State that we continue to have this issue with since 2019? And I give you a little background today. And in doing so, I am going to mention 4 names of great Nigerians in relation to me that is my privilege to work with in this country. The current president, something that happened, President Jonathan, Professor Jega, and the current chairman of INEC. I start with Jonathan so that people can understand the transition. And I will end with the president or the current president. In 2011, what is happening today, when we sign off that you have not done primary, you will not participate in the process because if you want to participate in the exchange of garment, the ceremony of exchange of garment, you must wear garment. This is not the first time that we wrote a report that party will not participate. In 2011, when PDP was in charge, both at the state, Cross River, and at the center, what happened? We were intimidated by some few party members that they are in government and that they will not obey the law. And that was very clear, that you must obey the law. And what happened? A primary that was supposed to have been conducted in the 18 local government. What happened? All the EO that were there from morning to evening. They didn't conduct it. They went to some room and wrote the result. Wrote the result that they had conducted primaries. By the time they turned in the report, just as what happened in Akwa Ibom, I signed on it that having not done so, heaven will not fall. In fact, they will be rejoicing in heaven that the right thing has been done, because I saw blood, people who were battered, blood everywhere. My phone was filled up. And you wrote such a result? So I wrote that report. It went to Abuja. Professor Joga signed on it, having also got his own report from security to confirm what has happened. Thereafter, General Zazi, God bless him, blessed memory, called me. I was in a high seat in Bakassi. Mike, what is going on in Cross River State? And I told him everything that happened. 2 days later, President Jonathan came to Cross River State to campaign for the 2011 election. Right at the stadium, the leaders of the PDP, one after the other, were preparing ground to incite the President Jonathan against me. By the time Jonathan was to speak, he ignored all of them. In the evening, when they got to Osun State, Oroto Douglas, I saw a missed call. I looked at my call. Who was calling? Oroto Douglas. And I said, I saw your missed call. He said, President Jonathan wanted to speak to me. And that was when they were calling me. And that the message for the president was that I should go ahead and do my job, that he did not appoint me to help PDP. That he appointed me and Jega and other people to give meaning and purpose to the ballot in the country, that every time people travel out, they don't respect our leader because the kind of election that we conduct in our country. Jonathan said so, that I should continue to do my work, that as a matter of fact, it was out of ignorance for even his own people to be telling him to remove him, because the procedure for removal of a resident commissioner is very cumbersome. You require a written address supported by two-thirds majority of the National Assembly. That was what Jonathan did that protected me. In the same vein, the DG of, SSS, I never knew it was even from that state. Ita, one of the finest gentlemen in my privilege, Ekpenyong. He never interfered. He never called me, despite the fact that he was an appointee of a ruling party. What is the point I'm trying to make here? There's an arrogance of members of every ruling party, as we have seen in the country. At the state level, where governors are taking over Nigeria, no local government election properly so-called, opposition parties are intimidated by state ruling party when it comes to local government election. At the federal level, that tendency is always there. In Edo State in 2015, I was the right who declared when I was intimidated. That was the state of Aneni and other key people in the country. I was intimidated that, look, Mike Igini, was working for opposition, which was one of the things they said in Cross River, that I was working for opposition to take over Cross River State, that Cross River belonged to PDP. And I said, I don't know whether it belongs to PDP. Go to the field. In that election 2011, Abati, CPC won Bogbobri area. That's the first time. ACN won. And they left protest to my office that I should be removed. And Jega was very clear to them that will never happen. In Edo State in 2015, out of 11 states of the South-South, and 11 states of Southeast and South-South put together, 6 states from South-South, 5 states from Southeast, Edo State was the only place that APC as a party, that President Muhammad Buhari got 46% vote. That was the only state. Government came to my house. What was the issue? Say, I'm an iconoclast. That they are the ruling party. That they were going to use federal might. And I told them that under my watch, with Jega sitting, that there will be no federal might in Edo State, but the might of the people of Edo State to determine who should become what. That's why APC, out of those 11 states, they got senatorial seats, they got 4 federal seats out of 9. PDP got 4 senator. Got 46% in the entire 11 states, only where I worked. The same people who were on the other side of the PDP, who are today back here, are the one attacking me today. It shows that we're in a country where we have no book of remembrance. It's a sad commentary that for every time we are asking for the rule of law, that the right thing should be done in our country, the wrong people are the one making life difficult for this country. We will not give up in what we are doing. And so in 2019, just in 2019 here, those who have been in Akwa Ibom State, see, the president had been contesting the election. They never even allowed people to vote in that state to even get percentage of vote. It was the only way I worked in for the first time. That the 3 times that the president contested, that he had 36%. the same APC members now who are making those noise every day now don't want to do the right thing because of the arrogance that I belong to the ruling party. It's most unfortunate. So as far as we are concerned, the report of the senatorial, the GUBA, they are all there, all right? For those whose name have not been published, to go to the court, to exercise that power, and our reports are there to be submitted to the court, to decide what is right and what is wrong. Look, with respect to the issue of democracy, the issue that affect public interest must not be left to the morality of individual. Democracy will have no meaning and purpose if people do not want to obey the rule of law. But their own rule, the rule of law, is preferable to the rule of individual, no matter how magnanimous. Without the rule of law, society will be nothing but a gang of some kind of element on the loose. That should not happen in our practice democracy.
So I have another question. They're saying that there's a letter from INEC recognizing the chairman of Akwa Ibom State chapter of the APC, that it is only you that is not recognizing him. The letter is dated June 21, 2022, that says, the commission wishes to formally draw your attention to the subsisting judgment of Federal High Court, suit number FCH ABJ CS 1635-2021, which recognized Honorable Obon Stephen Leo Nutakpeko as the chairman of APC in Akwa Ibom State. This is to know that the commission is complying with the content of the judgment. Please accept assurance of the best commission. This was signed by Rose Oriana Anthony, secretary to the commission.
And dated when? The letter dated when?
It was dated June 21, 2022.
Correct. Let me let Nigerians know that as advocates of the law, we will not violate the law. We are the ones that we must comply to the law, and we have complied eminently on this respect. And that's why what I just explained to you. The High Court gave an order, gave a judgment on the basis of the forged document. Don't forget that a professor is serving 3 years jail term for the same thing. This is how they be rigging the election in Akwa Ibom. You know, in Akwa Ibom, I repeat it again. For the good people, look, the good people of Akwa Ibom, they are good. They want to exercise their franchise. But a group of elite, some extra-constitutional and non-legitimized actors have reduced the scale of their choices. So, on the 17th of February, on the 17th of March, there was the Federal High Court order declaring the Leo as the winner. He might score 6 votes, but they have brought one and put it behind to read 1,006. And the man who scored 1,278, they can show it again for Nigerians to see, will not the loser. So when that was done, on the 18th, the other group of people went to court. You can see that they went to court. When they went to court, on the court of appeal.
As this, you are sure, has it been forensically audited that they tampered with the numbers?
They did.
Do you have any forensic proof?
Look, first and foremost, this result emanated from Akwa Ibom State. And the audio you showed that all the stakeholders were present. They had no problem. Now, this result, we have the original result in our custody. They also have it in Abuja. What these guys did, bring the other, this is the first one. Beautiful. 1,278. Augustine Canem. Then please go up. The other guy, the Leo, is called 006. What they did, by the other page, go to the other page, was to bring that one and add it behind the 006 to now read 1,006. With this, they came to our commission, submitted by way of copy. This is what they forged, went to the Federal High Court, on the basis of which they obtained a fraudulent judgment. So when the Court of Appeal now ordered on the 7th, because I want people to understand when they say we did not obey, we want to know who had not obeyed the court of law in this country. The Court of Appeal now said, maintain status quo. All right? Maintain status quo, which was granted on the 7th of April. 4 days after that, they went ahead to swear the guy who scored 006, but now having 1,006. All right? Now, that period of maintenance of status quo was the period which was May 26th and May 27th, where the period the governorship and the National Assembly event took place. At that time, we were relating with the group that is in favor of the maintenance of status quo. So we did legitimately and legally. But from on the 31st, when the office of national chairman of the party and secretary now withdrew, when they withdrew from the case, the lawyer that was standing in was on that matter before, which was now representing the man, the former secretary called Akwa, right? He was the same lawyer for all of them. That guy was now asked to step down. He went to the court and removed all the processes that have been filed. By implication, it meant that as from the 31st of May, we are now back to the order of the Federal High Court, which means that as of today, as bad as that judgment, as bad as it was, and terrible, we must obey it. So obeying that law is from on the 31st, but all the events that were carried out within the period when the court said when they granted maintenance of a status quo. So we have not disobeyed. Rather, what Nigerians should ask that why would political party leaders go and swear in somebody that the court, when the court have given order that maintain status quo, you still went to swear the person 4 days after the court gave an order with the idea that you want to use that particular group for the purpose of the primary.
Well, Mr. Igini, I don't envy you. Definitely your work is not an easy one. But I need you to help us clarify something, because on Twitter you get to see all kinds of comments.
Absolutely.
Who is the senatorial candidate for Akwa Ibom Northwest?
Akwa Ibom Northwest candidate is the DIG retired Ekbudon. He is the person that was validly elected. We had one for Northeast, but for Northwest, Akwa Ibom South, on that day, the head of GAP led the team. Nobody showed up at the primary school.
So you are saying that Senator Godswill Akpabio is not the senatorial candidate for Akwa Ibom Northwest?
He can be, because the event of senatorial took place on the 27th. What we are hearing or reading on the newspaper was alleged to have taken place on the 9th, because at the period we were in Abuja holding INEC meeting in Abuja on Friday morning. We said breaking news. What news is breaking? The train of left stations is on the 27th of last month. So what are you talking about? And you label it a rerun. A rerun has a meaning in electoral management. It could be, you can only have a rerun when there was election declaring conclusive, cancelled, stagnated, in which case you are going for a rerun. And in a rerun, it can only be between among those who participate in the first election. That is the truth of the matter. So I think that matter, we have moved on beyond that.
So
it is for them to
some
go to
people
court.
are also saying this, they're saying that maintain status quo was referring to the earlier High Court order, not the election, the Igini election. No, not at all. They filed a stay of execution of that order. They filed a stay at the Court of Appeal. I got it when they filed a stay. And at the Court of Appeal, they now asked for the maintenance of status quo. The status quo was those who were in office. Why should even there be a problem? Don't forget that in all that we are discussing here today, those results that you saw, it is not INEC that conducts election. In fact, God forbid that INEC should determine for political party a candidate that should fit for election. However, and this however should be underlined, given the provision of section 84, subsection 1, which says that a party intending to field a candidate for election shall conduct primary that shall be monitored by the Independent National Electoral Commission. Our job is about just 1%. 99% of the job is to be done by a political party. But that 1% is very, very decisive. And that's why I gave you the historical background, that this is not the first time that we have done so. In fact, I use the opportunity to let Nigerians know that when we come out to speak on matters, we do so with every sense of responsibility. We fought for democracy. Many of those who are today everywhere running the country aground, where were they when the journey of Nigeria and the prospect of democracy was less certain? In 2011, when the same thing happened, Section 31, could you believe you have it? Section 31, that had become a problem since 2010 until it had now been cured under Section 29, was something that came about on account of the decision of the commission when I was direct in Akwa Ibom State that went
to Abuja, and the matter went to the Federal High Court. When they were in the Federal High Court, what happened? Because under Section 31, what the law simply says is that once you must submit list of your candidates 60 days to that election, it ended as full stop.
Well,
but because of what was going on, they now went to add a proviso to the extent that whatever they submit shall not be rejected. Okay. So you could see what has happened there. Yeah. So these are the history and background of where we are coming from. But for those of us who are committed to due process, we are never bothered by traffic.
Okay, we need to go beyond Akwa Ibom. Okay. So that this doesn't become
absolutely
a provincial. You know, let's talk about this continuous voter registration exercise. Right?
Yes.
I've had one view expressed by, I think, your colleague in charge of the FCT. I think his name is Yaya Bello.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, he was saying that, yes, people want extension, they want registration, that getting the PVC is a process. That many of the people who will just register now, even when INEC decides to extend the registration, may not be able to take part in the election in 2023 because it takes a while. And at the earliest time that the PVCs will be ready may well be at best, maybe January or February next year. And you will still have to come and collect. And you cannot collect your PVC in, through a proxy. You have to come in person. So even if, there is an extension, is INEC, worried about logistics issues, getting the PVCs out early enough so that the enthusiasm of the electorate that we're seeing now, will not be a waste? Look, what are your observations?
Yes, I want to thank you very much for that. I think that these are the issues we should really be focusing on and not issues that have to be taken to court. First, as a commission, we are very excited to see the level of reawakening that what gives spice and piquancy to the practice of democracy is mass participation. And so, extending is one thing. What are we doing? As I speak to you, if I had my conversation with the chairman yesterday as to update on some of the issues you raised, at the former old parade ground, 50 machines have been distributed. As of yesterday, more machines have been sent to various states. And I'm aware that today, Monday, more machines are coming to clear off this. Now, after that, you have to aggregate the data. You have to consolidate. You have to do the AFIS. You have to do production. You have to do distribution. I think that's what my colleague was trying to explain. From the plan, that's very clear that by October, production will have been done. We will now be dealing with distribution. But I need to say this here, that Nigerians, as we are so excited to see that you are all coming out to register, we look forward to also come out to collect your PVC. And I have no doubt that the kind of enthusiasm that they have shown, they will do so. But why I want people to know one thing is that there's nowhere in the world where you can register everybody at the same time. Because don't forget that even where we have a cut-off point, at some point, January, even few days to that election, there will be people who have attained the age of 18. But there must be a cut-off point. On the basis of Section 19 of the 2022 Electoral Act, to the effect that none later than 180 days or 90 days, the register should be ready. And for register to be ready, we also expected, Dr. Bati, that within 7 days, we have to paste the register across the 8,809 wards across Nigeria. And a page contains about 10 registrants. So we are going to print millions of these, what they call preliminary registers, to be displayed. We also have to take to the local government. When we are done with that, we also have to print 3 sets of registers for every polling unit. 3 sets. We have the one for what they call the one we are going to paste on the wall so that you can check your name before you come to the poll officials. Then you have the black and white to be used. Then you have the colored and black and white. 3 sets. They are running into millions. So all that should be taken into account. So that at the end of the day, we also expected to provide that register to the political parties. Unlike political parties that will not be able to provide their register, we must provide the register to say, for example, in 2019, we had a total of 8,004,084 registered voters. From our projection, we are heading towards 19 million right now. But all of that had to be cleaned up. But I must say this here, Abati, one of the things that we have observed is that people, despite continuous engagement about who and who should register, we are still getting huge duplicated multiple registration. For instance, if you want to, for example, in the last election, you have problem with your biometric. You don't need to do fresh registration anymore. Or if the picture is not very clear, you don't need to do registration. You go and do what you call revalidation. When you go for revalidation, they will take your biometric and they will take your picture again without you replacing it, because the system we have now, Abati, at the polling unit, there are about 4 ways of identifying you. You use what you call the barcode, which on the PVC. You use what the QR on the name of the potential voter on the register. Then, of course, they can use your VIN number, unique to every registered in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. All right? And finally, once they type in your son name, your picture will come out. So now, by people going to do multiple registration, we are wasting the time of the commission. We are spending more money. But all that you need to do is only those who are new, who have not registered before, transfer, lost. Those are the people who can do that.
Okay, because of time, there's the pyramid of how you project to the highest level in INEC. What has been that balance like, of personnel, how they can grow up to CEOs and the likes?
The point being made here from the pyramid is that the conduct of election, its success, is a collective responsibility of all Nigerians and institutions of state. As a matter of fact, election day is the day where the commitment of institutions, INEC, security, judiciary, are tested. If you look at that pyramid, in fact and indeed, INEC becomes, technically speaking, a mere what you call supervisors on election day. Because election, we are going to recruit over 1 million plus for this next election, because we now have 176,846 polling units. If you look at that pyramid, at the moment, the national chairman and the commissioners at the board level, they are working. Once they are done, the material are taken to the state level where the REC is. From the REC, they are taken to the local government. From the position of the SPO down to the bottom, these are Nigerians who are not necessarily INEC official, who are in absolute majority. So the success of election is a collective responsibility of all Nigerians. For us to make it work, this arrogance that as an umpire, our job is different. And I was making the point about the president before. I talked about Jonathan. The last point I want to make, and that the current president, was that in 2019, when there was call for my removal because I was doing the right thing, a president called for a meeting. At that meeting, some people we brought the issue of Mike Igini, or removal of REC. And the president told them point blank that the meeting he convened was not for the purpose of removing REC. That is for the purpose of getting party agent. 2 people who were in that meeting called me and said, this is the position of the president. So really, I just want to say finally on this point that as far as we are concerned, for democracy to be blossom, that for us to create a society where there will be opportunity for all of us must realize that the rule of law is preferable to the rule of individual, no matter how magnanimous.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mike Igini, and we hope that INEC is truly ready for next year. But thank you others.